Once again, I'm back. Second time in 2 nights. Got guest and Judge Joe Brown coming on. Said he wouldn't mind coming on for a little while. I'll probably be here for about an hour or so. May have another special guest coming on. A lot of creepy things going on once again. Another chilly day. I'm sure the junkies want us to believe in climate change, but I don't believe in climate change. I just believe that, hey, man, it is what it is. Right? So, a lot of things don't add up. Um, there's a lot of things that may add up too, as well. Um, just trying to figure out everything. There's been a lot of things going on. Like they're talking about Hurricane Ian, and then they're talking about this, and then they're talking about that. Does anybody ever think that maybe that some of this stuff it's pre-planned? I just played the video last night of Bill Gates saying Civil War's coming. But it is what it is. I cannot call it. But I do know that it's coming very soon. What's going on, Shaq? How you doing tonight, brother? St. Louis, Missouri. What's going on, brother?
All right. How's everything? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Great. Let's see. Let me turn around here so I can get the camera angle a bit better.
How's things going in Memphis?
Okay, hold on. Let me see what this is at the door. Hold on.
I guess the judge got something with the dog or something, right? It's a dog barking or something. Like got to be for
Oh, seems to be something at the front door. Let's see what it is bothering her.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Know what's going on. But anyway, we got Judge Joe Brown on it. Thought it'd be good to bring him on. They said they wanted to hear from Man Up Monday. I know Ron heard. Shout out to him. Real BTV had told me to get him on Man Up Monday. So, all right, Judge. First Monday of the month. They call it Man Up Monday. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
I remaining up. I remaining up. I resisting up. Which one is it?
Well, the people are trying to man up, but it looks like they're having a hard time because so many want them to girl up. You know, what was this? Virgin Airlines went and did that ridiculous mess.
What they do? I might miss it.
Virgin Airlines is letting their flight personnel, crew, flight attendants, whatever it may be, they can wear skirts or suits. They have their own personal pronoun tags, and they've got an advertisement with some little sissy switching on in a dress. So, I mean, it's really crazy.
Speaking of that,
Really crazy.
I'm glad you mentioned that. What do you think about this thing with the Vermont? I think it's the Vermont soccer team or something. The women protested about the training being in the locker room, and they told the girls, "Well, since you protesting the training, we're gonna ban y'all from y'all locker room."
See, You can't have a religion, formal religion doing that, but you can get these creeps doing it. So,
So
somebody needs to take them in while this Supreme Court is what it is, set them up in a lawsuit and stop this before it gets absolutely ridiculous and somebody gets hurt. You don't see, all you need is a pervert running around talking about he's a girl to get access. And we've got enough situations. In fact, you've sent me some of the reports on the ones in the penitentiary that are knocking the girl booty out because they claim they're girls to get sent to the girl penitentiary. That's just plain sick. See, I mean, there is this reality thing that's got to do with, you know, the deer, the buck have antlers and the doe don't. You know, the bull elephants don't look like the cow elephants, and so on down the line. So this is a part of nature. And one of the things about the dressing is humans don't run around naked, so the cultural adaptation is have the clothes match what's underneath. But now these people, they want to punk out, cop out, drop out of the responsibility thing and say they don't want to deal with what goes along with being a man and don't want to deal with what goes along with being a woman.
speaking of that, Judge, what do you think about the this thing this phenomenon they've been talking about called the Woman King? They've been talking about that lately a lot. Black Panther coming out in a couple months too.
Yeah, I know. And it's fit propaganda. The truth about Dahomey is very interesting. It was a kingdom in Western Africa that existed between 17 and 1800s. It's now southern Benin. Okay. What they got into was slave trading. They had been paying tribute to the Yoruba a little north of them in Nigeria. So this whole thing that they're talking about is a lie. First off, there wasn't a woman king. What was going on is there was a queen or queens, and there were three brothers that founded the three tribal areas that wound up getting unified into Dahomey. What happened is one of them got the bright idea of not letting any of the tribal nobility run anything so he wouldn't generate a rival. So he had commoners operate most of the governmental functions or tribal administrative functions. Oops, sorry. And what went on was he had another interesting device. The army was male, masculine, but what he did to keep his nobles from getting power is for every military officer, he had a female counterpart that he kept in court so he could manage them, and the female officers had the right to countermand what the male officers said, and that was a control factor for the king. He had a detachment of Amazons, which is what they're talking about in the movie, but it's an outright lie that they ever had a female king. And that's just a feminist contrivance that I guess makes black feminists wowee whoopee. And all of them historically should have been put on a wall and shot because their business was capturing their fellow Africans for the slave trade. Now, when the Europeans decided they didn't want any more slave trade, they cut off the funds and Dahomey slid into nothing. And that Amazon detachment basically got slaughtered. So as to a man king, they never had such. It was a contrivance that the Dahomean kings came up with to keep the male nobility from asserting itself. So it's a myth. It's not even a nice myth. It'd be like Jewish women celebrating a Nazi female who sent a lot of Jewish people to internment camps or to extermination camps in World War II. It's kind of sick in terms of the whole proposition. And I got my DNA done, and my African stuff is just about all Yoruba. Not quite all, but mostly. So we took tribute from these folk, and they were our subjects. So we didn't exactly approve. We didn't recognize any of that female Amazonian bunch, and the Yoruba just whipped their ass whenever they got ready to get some practice. So
let me ask you a question about the word king. Now, the Queen of England just died, right? They called her a queen. So the fact of calling a woman a king, that's like some real propaganda, right?
I know it's feminist propaganda.
Okay.
And it's ridiculous. The other thing is England England had a long history with queens. They had Queen Boudica back in I think it was the 2nd century AD. She got offended by a rather corrupt Roman governor, so she organized a rebellion, and she did hold a rebellion, but they wound up getting slaughtered by the Roman legions. So it was a short-term thing, and then periodically they had a queen who was installed for political purposes. One of them was Elizabeth I. Her father was Henry VIII, the one that beheaded so many of his wives and other people. And that continued in line, and then they had Queen Victoria. And now Queen Elizabeth, who was their longest reigning monarch. And England used to be the largest empire in world history. And they had a thing about the sun never set on the British Empire.
Yep.
Royal Navy ruled the waves. Now Pakistan and India, who used to be their Indian colony, are more powerful. Australia, New Zealand, and Canada are more powerful militarily. So England is a third-rate junior grade military power that still has some nukes, but they really don't have much of a delivery system. And they had to borrow some planes from the U.S., some F-35s, to put on board their two aircraft carriers. There's some sorry looking things. I don't know what it is with the English. They make the nastiest, ugliest looking warships you can imagine, but it is what it is.
Well, let me ask you another question, Judge. I've been thinking about some things going on. So it's October 3rd, 2022. 1 month and probably 5 days till the midterms. Now it looks kind of interesting. I mean, it looked like some people about to get their asses kicked. But they're trying to do everything to hold on. Biden now, he's saying the student loan debt will not be forgiven for private loans. So basically that's about to go in the wash. He's trying
to see the other thing about it is here. Let me say something about that real quick. This is an embarrassment. Anywhere else in the world, if you had a college education, you'd be pretty automatically middle class. Middle class in America for one person is $150,000 a year income. And what they're doing for the student loans with the group that they are going to give some benefit to is if you make less than $125,000, which means you're not middle class, even though you spent 4 years in a college and you incurred a lot of debt getting the education, you're not middle class. So you will get some loans excused, but the point still surfaces. Why is it you were making so little after paying all the money you paid out and you spent 4 years in college? So that still is not resolved, and that is the incompetence of the current Democratic Party and its leadership. And I'm not saying support Trump in this, but the truth of the matter is that he was making a dent in that and trying to turn things around for that group, the young college graduate, economically. And nobody seems to have appreciated it in that group. And they went for the Democrats so you could have more of what you were talking about on the front end, and Virgin Airlines doing their weirdness as a matter of government policy. So they have a saying in America: you get the representation you deserve. And if we get this shitty representation, it's because we're shitty. We need to back out of that hole and get it together. I mean, think about it. So Biden he's, I've been alive with Truman as president, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Triggy Dick Nixon, Jerry Ford, Carter, St. Ron the Reagan, George Herbert Walker Bush, Bill Clinton, son of Bush, the Bush's cousin, Obama, the half-breed Kenyan, and Trump. And this fool we've got in there now is probably the most inept and incompetent jerk we've ever had sitting in the Oval Office. But he is what he is.
Yeah, you're right, Judge, about that. So, but my thing is,
just a caveat too. George Herbert Walker Bush and Obama boy Barry Soetoro's maternal grandfather were cousins. So he is related to the Bushes, and also Dick Cheney was a first cousin to George Herbert Walker and to Obama's maternal grandfather. So just think about that. Bush, Bammy, and Cheney. It's kind of pathetic, actually.
Well, Judge, I was talking to you last week. We were talking about a subject, or texting about a subject better yet. We were talking about it's something interesting going on with the rap game. But before I get to that, you had said something about Lizzo last week playing the flute, twerking, or something like that. I think the flute about Benjamin Franklin, our old president. What do you think about that?
I don't know what's with that poor girl. She has mental health issues, obviously, very low self-esteem. And her efforts to try and compensate for it are very transparent, and they're rather sordid and sick. Some people say, well, why don't you get on Beyonce? She doesn't wear hardly anything at all. Yeah, but Beyonce's beautiful and Lizzo's not. Now, they talk about, that's wrong. You male chauvinist, you objectify female beauty. Yeah, we do. It's like, think about it. I tweeted a little something, and I said, compare Brianna and Lizzo, then compare LeBron and Billy Porter. Somebody said, well, Billy Porter's not an athlete. I said, that's the point. He's a little dress wearing freakazoid, and one is a great athlete. There's no comparison, but we objectify that just the same as Beyonce's beautiful and Lizzo looks like something that goes oink. You know, she may have a beautiful personality, talent, but put some clothes on. That's unseemly. Well, why does one get to wear it? Because they don't look the same. You know, and the other thing is a Beyonce type, they've been making sculpture to commemorate and paintings about since day one. And you can go to the Juice Plateau for the Knox civilization in Western Africa. And if you look at their sculpture, before it went to that stylistic stuff everybody associates with African culture, actually, it once used to be very realistic. Those women depicted look like the Greco-Roman women depicted in sculpture, look like the classical looking beauty, black, white, brown, red, yellow, depicted throughout human history is basically a fit woman. Now you can see what they're doing with Lizzo with Sports Illustrated. Now let's be candid about this. Sports Illustrated has guys in it most of the time, and they're super fit because they are some of the best athletes in the world. Bicycling, skiing, golf, tennis, baseball, football, basketball, you name it. And they're fit. And at one time, they wanted fit women in there too. Now they got fat slobs that look like they couldn't run from the front door to the street. And they look like they'll die before they're 40 of a heart attack. Now, okay, they may be wonderful people, nice and sweet if you like that kind of thing, but they are not as athletically fit as the guys that they have in Sports Illustrated. So why is it that these fools who screech about sexism want to be sexist and say this magazine, which is full of these super fit males, shouldn't also have super fit females? Oh, well, you're objectifying beauty. Well, there we go again. The guys that have it going on best get the prettiest women. And the prettiest women get the guys who've got it going on. That's the way it's been for a long time. And if it weren't like that, humans would still look like chimps and gorillas. Beauty does have its own worth. Now, you can be a great person, but that doesn't mean you're beautiful.
Well, let me show you something. The reason I brought her up because I'm not sure what it's going to lead to. But the governor of California today brought up a bill. He signed a bill that California is the first state to ensure creative content like music videos, rap, can be used against courts as in court without judicial review. Basically, this is about a handful of rap musicians, Meek Mill, $2 Tiger, $2 Too Short, Killer Mike, and recording how it makes a picture. This is the second time I witnessed the governor of California sign bills to help our people, probation, caps, and bans on using rap lyrics in court. I respect you. So what's going on is they had some RICO cases early in the year about these rappers using rap lyrics, and they use it to get Young Thug and Gunna and some of these other rappers, as you see right here on the screen. So basically, they're saying they're not going to use the rap lyrics in court anymore. So that's kind of an interesting phenomenon, wouldn't you think? That they're saying it's not going to be permissible in court. So the rapper raps about something, you got to use that as evidence because they're saying it's artist creativity. That's what they're saying.
It depends on the circumstances, and that's going to be resolved by things other than what somebody's trying to be politically correct about in California.
So
there's a lot
what they say violates their First Amendment rights. That's what they're saying.
You're trying to use it for. So, I mean, I wasn't particularly aware of rap music being a hot flashpoint when it came to evidence in American law. So it's one of these things of, so what? How many people are you talking about?
Well, the guys on screen with Meek Mill, Ty Dolla $ign, they were all in Zoom video. I'm just trying to find out what they're trying to do.
I'm asking, how many people are you talking about?
As far as rapping?
Take all of the rap artists. How many do you have?
Probably hundreds, right?
A few. Have any notoriety when anybody's ever heard any of their music. Well, so, I mean, you're talking about the number of people get killed in a month in California. So in one area. So what's the problem? I mean, it's specious. In other words, it's what do they call it? Tempest in a teapot. A whole lot of rhetoric about something that is inconsequential.
Now, let me say something to you, Judge. Also, speaking of rappers and stuff, there's a woman on NBC named Tiffany Cross, and she bashed Kevin Samuels and Tariq Nasheed. Basically, she was saying black men. She had Roland Martin on there too, but they were talking about the reason why black men not voting for Stacey Abrams, but don't vote for the oppressor. Talking about Republicans.
Oh, Stacey Abrams is a piece of garbage. She has no policy, no charisma, no leadership capability, and doesn't have any ideas. So why vote for her?
Well, speaking of Stacey Abrams, Judge,
she's and as a matter of fact, personally, she's against a whole lot of things that I hold to be good policy. She wants to disarm the public in the face of a never ever going to come down group of young males who have not gotten man training thanks to being emasculated from some of the policies she's promoted and supported in the past. Okay. She is not putting in place one of the most important things.
She supports illegal immigration.
Yeah, well, I haven't even got there yet. I'm just saying one of the most important things that needs to be done by somebody on the state and the federal level is to do something to reverse the obsolescence of your typical worker so you don't have to store so much surplus labor in penitentiaries. The people are not supposed to be able to be armed, but the crooks will get the guns. And guess what? Defund the police, and then you want to go open the borders, throw the doors open, so the entry level jobs will be cut off to the people who really need them. They've got needs to fund education and vocational training, but we're supposed to let everybody that wants to run through the door come in here, and we're going to pay for that too. Or, what is she doing that's supposed to be for us?
Well, yeah. Well, that's the point.
Or anybody else for that matter that's got.
But that's the point I'm saying. But you got the CNN, the MSNBC commentator taking shots at black men, and then you got people co-signing, basically trying to say that black men are not intelligent enough not to vote for Stacey Abrams. They believe what the Republicans.
I'm a black man, and I'll put my IQ up against any of them dumb son of a bitches anyway.
Well, yeah,
so I'd say the other thing is the dumb son of a bitches are too stupid to make an analysis.
Well, yeah, I mean, Judge, but that's what I'm saying. Like, now they had Stacey Abrams. She did an interview with Monica and Sierra. I'm like, for what? They talking about, I guess they're talking about voting, but they're joking a lot. So here we go again, talking to rappers again about policy. Yeah. So there you go again. They're trying to slam us.
What the hell does that have to do about it?
It's
education, jobs, police, community, relationships. It is health care. It is moving people from being dependent upon a handout, getting fed a fish and learning how to fish so they can feed themselves, so to speak. It's about character, morality, sense of purpose, ethics, and exactly what are they offering? It's about family. No, they have a family policy. It's destruction of the traditional nuclear family. It's that BLM bullshit.
And speaking of that, that's exactly what that woman said, because she actually said Okay. Okay. Some lady said would. Okay. Some lady said would love for you to come to my pleasant state of black men from your perspective. Is she talking about me or she talking about? She might be talking about both of us. I don't know. But
Well, my perspective is I'm a chauvinist by their definition. I'm not following any woman in battle. Hell no. That's not in the family tradition. I'm not going to indulge anybody that wants to get on the level of being equal with getting little dispensations because they can't handle the heat. No, I'm not into that. And the other thing is
come
over
on.
the last 50 years, the black woman has taken control of the black community, and it's a mess. Veritable mess. It's a disaster. So I don't buy into that mess about they ought to run stuff.
Well,
that woman king is garbage, and that just doesn't work. So I'm sorry. You've had your chance. You've had a half century, and you've created a disaster. It's time for men to take charge again. And I know you've screwed up a whole lot of these boys who don't know how to be men, but some of the young men know how to be men. And man is a title. It's not a status you get just because you get to be an adult male.
There's
You
a
gotta
black
earn.
on that show, Judge. Come to think about it, it was a black man on that show, and he said the reason why black men won't vote for Stacey Abrams because of the patriarchal and the sexism and all that. No.
Oh, he's a sissy. Yeah, fool. Shut up, fool.
Yeah, that's what he said.
You can tell the ones that are in that little group because they try to down men and they don't want to be men anyway. I'd let it's 2022. Why don't they just come on out the closet? There ain't nothing wrong if they want to do that. Come on out the closet. See, like this stuff got started 50 years ago by the anti-man. It was lesbians who hated men, feminists that hated that they weren't men, beta boys, the weak ones that hated that they weren't strong men, the gay boys that hated that they weren't normal men. So, hey, it's LGBTQ. And all gay folk ain't LGBTQ either. It's a cult. A lot of them don't like what it stands for.
You know what, Judge? You're right. 2 weeks ago, they had a group called Gays Against Groomers. They call them GAG. Gays Against Groomers.
Sent some of that around. I saw it. Everybody.
Yeah. So they're saying that they don't like the sexualization of children. And they went to Venmo and PayPal and deplatformed them. They said, no, that is not what we're talking about. So you're talking about something else. You're talking about you want to groom children. That's what you're talking about. That's what they talking about. This group said we don't want to groom children. All right, well, deplatform you then. You don't get no play. Okay? So you don't get any play. You don't subscribe to the transgender and the rape and the sexism, the sexing of children, drag queens coming to churches. Then we don't support you. We deplatform you. So last month, Judge, I don't know if I probably did have you on. I think I had you on, but I didn't really get into it that much. But I gotta bring it up. Whoa. Here you go, Judge. My love. Oh, can you got me? Oh, you been black for a second. But what do you think about Joe Biden calling people semi-fascists? Your thoughts?
Well, you forgot he wasn't looking in the mirror. He's getting senile, isn't he?
Yeah. But
suppression of the First Amendment, freedom of the press and speech, get rid of the Second Amendment so nobody will be strong, get rid of the rights to be free from unreasonable search and seizure. That's number 4. Get rid of the right to remain silent. Number 5, get rid of due process out of 14 rather. I mean, what definition of fascist? By the way, and then he looks like he would be a charter member of the National Socialist Workers Party. You know what that is, don't you?
Nazi.
That's it. That's the German acronym. Sprachen Sie Deutsch? Ja, das ist wunderbar. Nazi.
But he's
That's
trying to walk it back.
Workers' Party, yeah.
He's saying now that he was only talking about those who denied the results of the 2020 election.
Look, elections get ripped off all the time in America. That historically is the number one gripe about the American political system.
Hold on, Judge. I got
Sometimes it is ridiculous.
I got a good friend of mine here. I told you about her. She's the one who was down there when BLM tried to rip the whole thing apart. She was down there. She a soldier. Let me bring her in. I told you about her. How you doing?
Oh, wow.
She's the one who was down there when BLM tried to rip the whole thing apart. Hey, wait. She was down. I got an echo in the back. She a soldier. Let me bring her in. I told you about her. How you doing?
Oh, wow.
She's the one hold on. How you doing? What's your echo?
Hold up.
Yeah, hold on.
There we go.
Hi, Judge. This is
I was getting feedback.
She had been telling me she want to tell you about BLM and all that. I'm gonna let her tell you about BLM. You know about her, but she firsthand was on the scene.
We spoke before.
We've
I don't
talked
know if you
before.
remember.
Yeah,
I remember. We talked.
Okay.
We discussed what happened to some of the people who originally came up with BLM. Some of the things involved in them. Yes.
but
Yes.
why don't people understand them 5 years later, 6 years later, 8 years later, Judge? Are we still crazy? Do we still believe that BLM is really helping us?
Well, look, back
Just a minute. I'm trying to adjust my
67,
volume.
68, we had pimps who were trying to pimp the revolution or pimp the evolution and hustle
You
it.
know what?
So there you have low forms of humanity.
Well, Judge, if you realize you haven't seen that much of BLM this election.
They're kind of staying out of the way so it isn't as bad a disaster as it might be.
But we have not. Well, Judge, you know, like Nyota already knew about it, but we pulled up that platform that had what we believe. But now they don't even talk about what they believe anymore. They're too busy fighting with each other. Who's getting the $10 million? Who's getting this? Who's getting that? They got a lot of personal infight now in their own ranks, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. People are beginning to find out what they're into, so they've committed to the term Black Lives Matter like it's a religious mantra, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And they don't want to take a hard look at what has happened because the excess enthusiasm got in the way of what ought to be coming out of hard, rational analysis. So it's bad.
Well,
but who am I? You know.
Speaking of that, what do you think about Miss Harris? Since she's was a part of that BLM thing, and you know that identity politics.
She matches her racial profile.
Hey, Nyota still there? Oh no, she's still here.
She is technically what she and her family are. We've heard, but we think of it in terms of a long told lie. I don't want to badmouth the people who fit into the category, but she's an Aryan. She is anthropologically a classic example of an Indo-Aryan, Indo-Aryan, as in Aryan Nation, Aryan Brotherhood, the Aryan Superman of the Third Reich. But Hitler lied, Goebbels and Himmler and all of that bunch lied because they weren't blonde-haired, blue-eyed. They're swarthy, dark-haired and dark-eyed, and they tend to come from India. And her family background, mixed with a little Irish, according to her father, is She's a Hindu, Tamil, Brahmin caste woman. So what she's acting like is a Nazi. And she's kind of an embarrassment to the country because obviously she's lazy and doesn't do her homework. And the Europeans just say she's word salad Harris. She likes to throw words out there that very seldom get related to the subject matter. And our subordinates were quitting in droves because what they say, we stay up all night preparing these briefings for her, and she's too damn lazy to read them. Apparently, she's just had a history of hiking her skirt up.
Hey, Nyota, you there?
But she's too old now, and nobody's interested, especially not the Europeans who want firm policy.
Nyota, you got your thing fixed? Wait on her. I mean, I tried to actually she got it fixed. Well, that's okay, Judge. Let me bring up another subject. When she gets straight, I'll, get back on that subject. But do you think about this pipeline thing over there in Europe? I mean, you hear about this pipeline thing. They keep on saber rattling with Putin and things like that. What do you think?
Hey, 1945, the Red Army was kicking some ass. United States had the bomb, and then it would hold them off a bit. Now, there's a bit more parity. The Russians are nobody to mess with. And they've got their stuff together. And I think most of what's going on in support of the Ukraine is simply the fiasco generated by the fact that the president of the United States has been indicted by Ukraine in a long indictment for everything ranging from bribery, extortion, perjury, to soliciting treason and extortion, all sorts of felonious behavior. And he wants those indictments dropped or dismissed because under Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, it says the country is the country, the government, supposed to enforce the law of nations. Article 6 says, while we whoopee treaties ratified by the Senate are part of the supreme law of the land, and we've got a few that deal with Interpol and Ukraine, and we're supposed to assist in the apprehension, detention, and extradition of criminal elements wanted by member nations. And Biden's got this long indictment naming
about that, Judge?
Counts. And then we've got this other thing too. Article 2, Section 4 says the president and vice president can be impeached and, if convicted, removed from office. The 12th Amendment infers that if they are convicted, they can never again hold a public office. And we've got 2 more years of this term to go before we get to the next election. And the dumbass Democratic Party set the precedent I told you about. I should be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And what did they do? They went after Trump the second time when he was no longer president of the United States for something he did as president. And we have the specter of Biden being gone after, Article 2, Section 4, for impeachment by a majority Republican House of Representatives and a majority Republican U.S. Senate. So they might get a bill of particulars on impeachment articles, and they might get a conviction out of retaliation. So if they can go after Trump when he's no longer president, they can go after Biden when he's no longer vice president, and that would leave them with the interesting situation of having Kamala Harris Imhoff as president and Nancy Pelosi as vice president, which would, that's likely to be a slaughter in 2 more years after this one, if that came about. Ooh, wow.
Let me thank this Doe Eyes TV. Thank you for your email, and yes, I'll come on your show and talk about it when I get a chance. I'll probably do it next couple of days. Thanks for reaching out. Somebody just reached out to me, Judge, and said they want me to come on their show, talk about the black men perspective. So, thank you, Judge.
Hey, young brother, go ahead and talk about the young black man's perspective.
But let me go back to what you're saying about Mr. Biden, because it's been told about 63 million people in the $63 billion wasted in Ukraine. That's taxpayer money. How in the hell, why are we letting them get away with this?
Because he's trying to buy his way out of being indicted. Because if they don't drop that indictment, it's still pending under the Article 6 of the Constitution. We got to take him into custody and extradite him to Ukraine for trial after he's out of office. So unless that goes away, he's got problems. The other thing, too, is the U.S. government is supposed to be enforcing the law of nations. That's Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and they might go after him. And the other thing is, too, there are 3 things you can be impeached and convicted for. And when they returned articles of impeachment against Trump, they didn't deal with any one of the 3. One of them is bribery. There was no allegation that Trump took a bribe. 2, there's treason. Treason is the only crime defined in the Constitution, and it's very strict. I would say that nominally there might be good cause to indict Biden for that, if only off of what comes out of those laptops his crackhead son abandoned in a repair shop. And the next thing is for crimes and misdemeanors in office, high crimes and misdemeanors in office. That's any kind of crime, felonies and misdemeanors. And they didn't even go after Trump. I mean, let's start with the first one. They went after him for obstructing Congress. That's not a crime. Every time a president vetoes a bill, that's obstruction. But was it Congress? The dummies forgotten Article 1. The Constitution says the Congress of the United States shall consist of 2 chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. So all they had to do when they got to the Senate is, hey, anybody feel obstructed? Nope, that's out of here. And then the other one was abusing his authority. There's no such crime. So what was it? That's not bribery. That's not treason. And for it to be a crime, it has to be defined, and there is no such. So they just wasted everybody's time. It was a grandstand play trying to make themselves look good, which actually, if you know what you're looking at, it makes you look like a dumb idiot. Bunch of dumb idiots.
Hey, man, you still there? Because I can't hear you. You good? I don't know what's going on with the thing. But I'm trying to get her in to talk, what you got to talk about. But I don't know what's going on with her thing. Let me bring something up that somebody did point out. They said, Judge, they said you're a good man. You running for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Pay attention to his words. So you know what? I'm gonna pay attention to your words and let you talk about you running for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee while you're right there.
Yeah, JJB 23, send Brown downtown, take back your town. Judge Joe Brown for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee in 2023.
Well,
JB 23.
Now, Neoda's from St. Louis, second most. New Orleans has been rated by population the number 1 city by crime in America. Memphis is number 3.
No, it moved up to number 1, unfortunately.
Oh, it moved up to number 1, okay.
That's embarrassing. Actually, in terms of overall criminality, we're still holding strong at number 5 in absolute numbers of criminal events in the country. It goes LA, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Memphis, Houston, Miami, Detroit, and on down. And Detroit was running number one in terms of homicides. We seem to have passed them. We've been doing a lot of that. We don't have enough masculine control here.
Mm. But you got to get the masculine control back.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've got some plans with what to do with the police department to put civilians in control and get rid of this little ineffective civilian review. We need civilians in control, just like with the Defense Department. We need to develop our international flavor so we can get some industry in here. We've got the Mississippi River, and there's no reason why we cannot get hydroelectric power out of that river and provide basically free green energy to this area, which brings in a lot of other industry. We've got Ford and Cadillac making electric cars that are going to be the only thing sold in the country in the next 10 to 15 years. And that means Memphis takes over from Detroit being the center of manufacturer for these automobiles that we like to drive. So we've got a lot of things going on here. We need to put in community-based arbitration where lawyers aren't allowed to practice because courts have gotten too expensive, but for anybody but the wealthy to use, and they're supposed to be there to tamp down the violence. We need to put some programs in place to deal with the juveniles, and I offer up the fact that from 1990 to 2000, when they did this study over a 10-year period, the statewide recidivism rate was 80%, but in my courtroom, it wasn't but 18. So what did I do to reduce that? Bigger scale.
You got a point there, Judge. I didn't really know that at first, but I'm glad you brought that up. Now, let me bring up something else because I just asked her what's going on with her thing, but I don't know. Maybe she's having some technical difficulties. I had this last week. They cut me off midstream. So I don't know. The Nazis are getting real persistent on what they won't say it on the airways.
Oh my, I forgot about that. That is fascist because you can't have free speech because you might expose them. Oh, wow. Ever read Animal Farm by
George Orwell?
There you go. He also wrote 1984, but in Animal Farm, what Orwell said was the animals had a revolution. They had a constitution. All animals are equal. The pigs pulled off their little thing. So they tried to make the whole farm into a pig pen. And what that was is all animals are equal, but pigs are more equal with others. And look what's happening with everybody else. We can't talk, but certain other people who are a very small minority can talk over us, shout us down, talk badly about us. And I'm not just saying black folk, I'm talking about all normal people that are into and produced by a traditional nuclear family.
She's saying DC loved Kamala at first until no changes were made.
Well, she doesn't have any to make because neither her nor Biden have any ideas. See, their deal is they're piss poor little financially inept types, and what they want is to get rich from public office.
Yeah, like
she married into that. Rich Hollywood attorney, but she doesn't claim to be anybody. Adopted his 2 children, but she doesn't use the name Imhoff. I guess that's deep off into that feminism thing.
Well, you know what, Judge? You know what? I was looking at the thing the other day, and you're telling me these guys are making a salary of $170,000, whatever. But then Nancy looks like her husband. They don't want to ban stock trading, insider trading in Congress. They voted it down last week. So what I'm saying, you got a lot of people making money through other means, but they're not telling you how much they're disclosing their real figures.
Well,
You think Obama disclosing his real figure? You think Joe Biden disclosing his real figures? Hell no.
No, here's the deal. Obama is independently wealthy, and he lies about his struggles financially. That's a tale. He's the wealthiest president that the United States has ever had. And he gets it through an Indonesian trust fund from his adoptive daddy, Lolo Soetoro, now dead. It's not subject to American law. And he is very, very wealthy. And
He's backed by Wall Street.
Yeah, and he's very, very much into oil. So was George Herbert Walker and George Walker Bush. So was Dick Cheney, who is also a cousin. He was CEO of Halliburton. Halliburton is a Bush-Walker family enterprise founded by George Herbert Walker in 1946 in Oklahoma. And George Herbert Walker Bush was named after Uncle Herbie. So Obama's grandfather on his mama's side is first cousins with George Herbert Walker. So it's all a family business. And broke-ass trailer park trash, urban trailer park trash, Joe Biden wants to get in on that. And look at him, his crackhead boy. Oh, man. By the way, I'm involved with something that's going to be examining that. I had no idea how bad it was until I actually got to look at it. Whoa, it is horrible. And the idea that somebody at the top of the pinnacle in terms of the administration of the United States of America would give a bumbling, junky ass fool like that access to what he had access to is criminal.
Come on, yeah.
I had no idea it was as bad as it was. Now, there's going to be a lightweight treatment of that.
We got,
I'm involved in, but you'll hear about it this month. So stay tuned.
You know what I thought about else? What do you think about that phenomenon of flying the migrants to Martha's Vineyard?
Nice idea. Martha's Vineyard is one of the supporters. So the rest of the people down on the border saying, we can't afford this. You brought them in here, you pay for it. It ain't right for you to say, oh, the United States is not going to take care of this. They're sending the $64 billion that they can throw away to Ukraine, where, as one of your viewers has pointed out in the chat room, they are unrequited Nazis. You see, yeah. Ukraine furnished a lot of volunteers to the Nazi cause, rounded up a lot of Jews, vagrants, gypsies, homosexuals, Slavs, and sent them off to be exterminated, but they were spared accounting because when the war was over, Ukraine resumed its part as a component of the Soviet Union. And by the way, some of us remember Nikita Khrushchev. He was a very interesting character. He was the Soviet premier that tangled with Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and now we find out he kicked Kennedy's ass because it was a setup that Kennedy fell into. And Khrushchev was chief commissar during the Stalingrad siege in World War II. And guess who was born and raised in Ukraine? Nikita Khrushchev. And by the way, guess who's over there in Ukraine? Because it was the southernmost part of the Soviet Union and it was warmer than that sub-zero mess in Moscow every winter. And they had a lot of Africans that settled over there. So you have them, their children, grandchildren, sometimes great-great-grandchildren who are getting screwed around by the Ukrainians And a lot of them seem to be part of the move to be reabsorbed by Russia as they were when the Soviet Union was running things. So it ought to be very fascinating.
So let me ask you another thing. What do you think about you got barbecue sauce out there, don't you?
Oh yeah. I'm trying to get back into service, but I also serve sauce. Sell it actually. Judge Joe Brown Barbecue. Judge Joe Brown, that's JJB, same as for the mayor's thing, but you don't stop at JJB 23. And you get into barbecue, BBQ, JJBBBQ.com.
What do you think about Larry Fink of BlackRock, who is involved with the Fed, and he also owns some private prisons, sets on their boards. He also owns the facility for, Larry BlackRock is actually like the holding facility for illegals. Okay.
Well, let me put it this way. The whole prison system is part of America diluting itself. Every other industrialized country in the world, except the United States, has a program to keep its working force from being made obsolete by steadily advancing industrial technology and computerization. We leave it to private enterprise. So private enterprise is not in the business of running charities unless they're for profit or for tax benefits. And in this case, neither applies. So what do you do when you have a surplus in something like labor? Well, it's a commodity. And like wheat, corn, or cotton, what you do is, number one thing, you store the surplus. We put ours in a jail cell instead of a grain silo. You subsidize the would-be producer, but instead of having the farmer pay to let the land lie fallow instead of growing this commodity, you have the public assistance check, and cutting back a production instead of not growing it, you just get the youth to ideate on dysfunction. They drop out, bang out, drug out, get knocked up too early, too often. They don't have vocational skills. They don't have academic preparation. They've got the wrong worldview, the wrong way of looking at life. They don't carry themselves right. They cause where they live to be chaotic, so that what happens is their communities cannot engage in cohesive political activity, and they tend to get off into belief systems. Oh my God, Massa up there in the big house, Democratic Massa gonna save us, because he talks so good, smooth to us, don't ever deliver nothing, but it sure sound good.
So are we convicted? Are we convinced of sounding good behind doing the action? Is that what we don't want to do that?
In other words, what happens is we are stupid, stuck on stupid. Every other ethnic group in the country periodically batters the Republicans and Democrats back and forth. What are you going to give us? What are you going to do for us? Well, I don't think that's enough. We'll show you. We'll fix you. Now, how you like that? But you see, when you give the Democratic Party your vote, no matter what they don't do for you, and you won't vote Republican no matter what they do for you, that means neither side needs to do a damn thing for you, because one is not going to lose benefit if it doesn't, and one won't get a benefit if it does. So screw us. Just we get left hanging. But now if we turn around and just said, oh no, this is ranked out, we're not going to go for this, and somebody would feel pain, because that somebody, the Democratic Party, depends on us to get them over. We might save them from a total ass whipping this November, but I doubt enough of us are going to have the gumption to go out and say, oh, hell no. You've been taking me for granted. Nobody. like put it on another term.
Yeah, is it like a pimp? Is it like a pimp keep smacking the whore?
Yeah, but put it on another term. What that's like, man, is look, baby, you asked me to do all these things for you, and you be putting out a little bit of trim every now and then, which ain't much at all since you done got used to me. And I found out you out there sleeping around with somebody else. Oh, hell no. See, the Democratic Party been hustling us. They got our money, and now we in need, and she got somebody way across town she good to, and it ain't us. See, they represent the people that are trying to destroy our families, manhood, womanhood, and childhood. They do not represent us. They also, under the Clinton administration, jumped into the back pockets of high finance. So now America doesn't have anybody watching out for the sharks that are out there in the economic waters who are trying to use and abuse. Bad show.
Yeah, but I want to say something. You got to understand, Judge. Hey, there is a new Black King. Like you said, Judge, you're not making any concessions to go see Black Panther.
No, I'm not saying that. And that's the other thing. The first one, see, I read some of the comic books when I was bored in college. Back when, 50-some years ago, more than 50 years ago, and Stan Lee had Black Panther as a revolutionary. He was a badass. He was a rocket scientist, graduated from MIT at 19. Now they have the villain, Killmonger, graduated from MIT as a rocket scientist at 19. The Black Panther got training, military training, and this one, Killmonger, in the first Black Panther movie, he became a SEAL, and he was so badass, he got the nickname Killmonger. In the comic book, the Black Panther wasn't running around as a tight-wearing vigilante trying to help out white folk. What was going on was there was a drug trade and a slave trade thing that was still going on that came out of Harlem with some clown who was Killmonger there. Running it, so that's how he got involved. But they turned the hero into the villain, and they had little boys chanting "Kill him, kill him, kill him" to the one that they should have been looking to. And the penultimate scene in the movie was the pitched battle at the end, where the black women and men of the tribe were trying to kill each other, which was absolutely ridiculous. And there were no men anywhere in power and authority. And even the Black Panther, the nominal king, he had to be propped up by the women who gave him this drug that gave him superpowers. And meanwhile, Killmonger kicked his ass without benefit of that. They committed treason by breaking the tribal law and bringing in some other black men. And then where did those black men come from? They were in caves where snow was perpetually on the ground. Remember, this is in Africa. Where the hell were they? Mount Kilimanjaro? No, not where they were. So all kinds of fantasies and negatives. And Hollywood, Disney, and ABC were behind the 8 ball with a $1.25 billion judgment against them. And they needed cash flow, so black folk provided the cash flow. It became the highest it had the highest box office for any action adventure superhero movie ever. In Memphis, Tennessee, had the biggest box office in America, which is ridiculous. And it was totally bad imaging. And then this new one, too, what I get, shows is going to be very bad, more of the same. So don't even bother. Don't waste your time. They won't give you anything good out of that, even if you pay for it. So don't help them out. They don't need your help. Let them sink.
Well, you had entertainers actually paying money to have theater sold out and getting people to go free to watch this Woman King. So
No, it's ridiculous. And what's happened is if they're doing it, you can bet the studios are paying for it as a form of cheap advertisement.
well,
Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I got
and by
one
the way,
more.
see, the plaintiffs, how that happened is the plaintiffs came out of So You Want to Be a Millionaire, and some may remember that series. And they got the money that they asked for. They weren't asking for but about 7-some million, but the Court of Appeals, Ninth Circuit, awarded $580 million, and that was 10, 11 years ago. And they haven't even paid down the interest, and it's still climbing. So they could be closed out. Now, somebody said, do I think our presidents are elected or selected? Well, by the Constitution of the United States, they are selected. We elect those people known as the Electoral College who select the president. They're supposed to be a bunch of erudite, knowledgeable, well-attuned people who are supposedly acquainted with the candidates, and they use their discretion to select the folk who will be chief executive. What happens is that I don't go into what a lot of people want to claim. The country is not a corporation, but you can think of the board of electors being the board of directors who are voted on and selected by the stockholders. We vote on the board of electors, and the board of electors select the chief executive officer, who would be the president, who is listed in the Constitution as, quote, the chief executive officer of the country. So the board of electors, like in a corporation, analogous to, well, a board of directors, this body selects the chief executive for the corporation, or in this case, for the government. So, yeah, they're selected. We don't elect.
Well, thank you very much. That's a good answer. Well, Judge, let me say something. Like I always say, man, when you come around, people in Memphis, they try to send Judge downtown. People want to know how can they reach you on Twitter or all that other good. Matter of fact, I got a guy who actually wants you to come on his show too. But I'll see you.
Well, you can make the referral. So
yeah, thank you.
If you want to find me on Twitter, I do not have a blue check, but you can get me at Judge Joe Brown TV. Judge Joe Brown TV. There are others out there who claim to be me, but I'm the only one that's tweeting on at Judge Joe Brown TV.
All right.
It's me.
Yes, sir. And look, and I'll send a referral. Y'all exchange and y'all do y'all thing. I'll send him to him tonight and he'll reach out to you one way or the other. So I got you.
Well, my tweet for Man Monday is this: Man Monday, take a look around. From pronouns to perversion, from emotive excesses to lack of self-control, from sissies subverting masculine duty to anti-man diatribes that remove masculine controls of violence. The list of negatives that we mean to change is long. Let's get to it.
Man say thank you, Judge Joe Brown, for the comment. And with that being said, Judge, hey man, come on again, back again next week. We're gonna keep up with this midterm. We're gonna keep up with your mayor election. Is that fair?
Yes, the mayor's election is in October 2023. JJB for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown. Take back your town.
That's what we got to do. We all got to take our town.
And in this one, Highbind gotta go. This has been judged. Catch me when you can, cause I'm the one that ran. I'm out of
Yes, sir. Take your time.
Okay. There you go.